Hello, Facebook. Hello, internets. So, had a little bit of a internet problem here today, so hopefully we are able to continue without interruption. I guess we will see. And for those of you watching the recording, it must have worked because you're watching the recording. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Evie Burke, and I work with women entrepreneurs, and I help them take their productivity to the next level. And I have a great Facebook group, Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs. I'd love to see you over there if you're looking for a little help with your productivity. If you want a little accountability and you want some support, I'd love to have you over there. So before we get started, I would love to know that you're here or that you're watching the recording. So just, I'd love it if you say something or hit that like button. Show me some love. I would really appreciate that. I would love that. And I would love to know, why did you decide to come today? What's happening in your world that this was an interesting topic to you? And since we are talking about work-life balance today, what's your take on work-life balance? What frustrations do you have around it? Oh, I see somebody sending the love. I can't see right now who it is though. Oh, Dana is, and Mary. If I look over at my monitor, it tells me who's sending me things. So great, thanks. So while you're thinking about that, I am going to share this Facebook Live with a couple of people so that I found. And I'm getting text messages. All right, they're gone. So I have my in-laws here today, so they're downstairs, and my husband's working with them on some internet-y things. So there's some text messages going back and forth that I am included on. So that's what's popping up. So let me share this. Let's share it on my timeline. And some of you, while I do that, some of you might have seen my my newsletter post or my blog post earlier this week, where I shared a picture of my parents and my sister's Boston Terriers. And it was one of the rare times, the weekend that my sister was spending there, that they actually calmed down. And I say rare times because, as I mentioned in my video, Bostons have a personality where they just go, 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 go. They're constantly, they want to please. They just constantly go. If it's just somebody that they're comfortable with and they're home alone, yeah, they're going to sleep a lot. But if there's another dog around, if there's somebody to play with them, they will play until they literally run themselves ragged. So let's see, let's share. I'm suddenly wondering if I was sharing the right thing. So you and your business might be similar. So a lot of times in our businesses, let's see, I'm having some problems finding the last one. I can only seem to find 2 of the 3 places I want to share this on at any given time. So we're going to leave it with those 2 since I can't find the other one that I'm looking for. And I'm going to hope that I shared it to the right places. Let's see if I shared the right one. We're just going to assume I did, and if I didn't, well, I'll share it later. So anyway, you might be in your business like the Bostons, where you have lots to do, you go, 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 and it doesn't occur to you to maybe slow down or take a break until maybe somebody says, hey, do you want to maybe take a little break or go and do something else? So one of the things that's really important in your business is creating some boundaries. I was speaking to a group this morning, and somebody said that she didn't really have boundaries. Her work and her business life just kind of flowed together. And we were doing an exercise where they kind of map out how would they want their weeks to go if they had everything in there that they wanted to do. And I said, well, maybe, include some of that, the life stuff and the work stuff in there and how it plays together. And she looked at me and she smiled and she said, well, it doesn't actually work very well. So she needed a few boundaries set up because the flow that she had wasn't actually working. So sometimes it can really be helpful to have some boundaries between your business life and your work life, but know what works for you. If what you're doing now doesn't work for you, then it might be time for a change. One of the exercises that I have been sharing when I've been out networking, or not networking, but speaking, and I shared it on the blog probably in January, is taking a look at, like I said, how do you want your week to look? What are the things that go into that? And I'm not going to walk you through that right now, but know that that's there if you want to go look for it. And then one of the things I like to ask is, what is your definition of work-life balance? And I ask because whether you think you can have it or you think you can't, you're probably right. And I mean that based on what your definition is, mostly. Let me unpack that just a little bit. So a lot of times somebody will ask a question and they're not defining what they mean, and they'll ask if people agree with them or not. And you get a bunch of people agreeing and a bunch of people disagreeing, but when you really start to deconstruct what is meant, then the answers change a little bit. So, for example, in one Facebook group I'm in, somebody posted if it was possible to have systems and be authentic, or to systemize, if it was possible to automate, if it was possible to automate authenticity. And a lot of people saying no, a lot of people saying yes. And there's a couple of us that said, well, what do you mean when you say that? Because is it possible to create an automated sequence that is very authentic and very true to who you are and what your business is? Yes, it's very, very possible to create systems that are authentic, that are extensions of who you are, and actually can increase your authenticity because you're not running yourself ragged, but you've set things up to work for you. However, if you're trying to set up one system that this is the way to be authentic, follow this 3-step process, that's not going to work, because you can't systemize how you're authentic. Does that make sense? The way that I'm authentic is going to be different than the way you're authentic. So if I were to say, follow this 3-step system, and this is the way that you can be authentic in your sales conversations, there has to be a lot of detail that allows a lot of you to come through, because otherwise I'm telling you how to do me, and that's not going to be authentic to you. So you can't automate authenticity that way, but you can be authentic in the way that you are, doing some systems or doing automation. I hope that makes sense. So going back to work-life balance, I think depending on how you define work-life balance, yes, you can have it, or you might not have it. It just completely depends on how do you define it. So normally, and I'm going to do something a little different here, I'm going to move you. I'm going to move my little light here. I'm going to turn it off for now. And I'm going to switch the camera. So here is my desk. And some of you might have seen this example before. Let's see. I'm almost afraid to move things too much for fear that my little balance thing will fall over. But there we go. So a lot of times when we think of work-life balance, we picture something like this, right? Where we have equal parts on both sides. One side's work, one side's life or personal life, and we expect them to be equal and balance out. And when we expect this from our life and our work, 100% of the time, we're going to be frustrated and we're going to be overwhelmed, because very rarely are you at a point in life where you can have that equal balance. There's going to be some times where you need to spend more time at work. There's going to be some times where you need to spend more time with your personal life. And it just depends, right? So what is important here to know is that you're creating the balance that works for you. So in this example, you have this balance, and you have the fulcrum, which is what the balance is sitting on, right? So the interesting thing about the fulcrum, though, is you can move it. So I can move this, one direction or the other. And if I leave it like this, it's not going to work. But if I move something, so if I say that I am going to adjust, move this over here, and I move this, then it still balances, right? Can you see that? So now I'm using quarters here, but now I have more quarters here than I have over here, and it still balances because I adjusted the fulcrum. So if you look at your work-life balance, you might want to think about what expectations do you need to adjust so that you can keep things in balance for yourself. And Mary pointed out in the comments that sometimes your balance falls apart. I want to challenge that just a little bit. Sometimes you need to severely adjust your expectations. And I know that we all have things in our life that at one point or another, or we have all had things in our life where we've had to completely adjust what this work-life balance is. And it can feel like it's falling apart, but I'm trying to figure out how to word this. It can feel like it's falling apart, but it feels like that most when you're expecting it to be like this and stay like that. And so then when something happens where you need to adjust and it needs to look like that, and you're trying to leave it here, or you're trying to say, so this, in this case, this is your life, and this is work, this is personal, and this is work, and you're trying to have it balance like that, or you're trying to even spend more time at work when you need to be spending more time with your personal life, when you haven't adjusted your expectations correctly, or not correctly, but to match what your life currently is, that's when it feels like the work-life balance has completely fallen apart. It doesn't mean that you're not going through really difficult situations, and it doesn't mean that you're not frustrated, but it can help a lot with adjusting how you expect your business to support you in those times. So yes, it's all about recognizing the need to rebalance. The other, okay, I'll talk more about that in a minute. So what happened here is, so you adjust your expectations, right? You rebalance your expectations. And this is super important because it allows you to take a step back and say, okay, what am I going to focus on right now? So let me switch this back around here. All right, put that there, put this here. You're looking at my hand. All right. So being able to rebalance your expectations or adjust your expectations is really what I'm talking about here, because when you can adjust your expectations, that can save you from a lot of frustration around all of these other things that you feel like you need to be doing. So when life just feels like, it got turned up on its upside down, if you can go, okay, my work-life balance needs to adjust, I need to be spending more time with my personal life right now, then you can look at what's just going to have to take a pause in your business. And it might be painful and it might be frustrating, but when you're feeling that frustration and that overwhelm, it's a signal that something has to change. So if you have a situation in your life that requires a lot of time and you're still trying to put in a 30 or 40 hour week and you're just feeling ragged, you haven't adjusted your expectations enough. And I say that with a lot of love because I know we want to have successful businesses, and I know a lot of times having a successful business means, having a successful business means that you need to be putting time into your business. And that's how a lot of us earn our money, is based on the amount to a certain degree of time we put in our business. But when life kicks, the stool out from under us, when something happens that just throws us to the ground, sometimes you need to take that step back and take care of yourself before you can take care of your business. And the example that I like to share a lot is from my own life. My father-in-law got pretty ill about a year ago, and he was in the hospital for a while, and the local hospital couldn't figure out, what was happening, so he got moved to a Chicagoland hospital. And while he was there, they live in Indiana, just across the border, and while he was there, my mother-in-law came and stayed with us, because it was a lot easier to get to the hospital from our home than it was from where they live in Indiana. And when that was happening, I just knew that I wanted to be there with my family. I wanted to be spending time with them. There were still some things that I wanted to do in my business, but some of the things, they just got pushed aside. They were not top priority anymore. My top priority was spending time with my family and being there with them, because we weren't sure what was going to happen. We weren't sure how it was going to resolve itself. And we had, a lot of family in and out. We had my sister-in-law and her husband staying with us for a while. We had them and my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law all here. And, our house is a 3-bedroom, but one of the bedrooms is my office. So, it was kind of a bit of a juggling act, getting everybody situated. But that was my priority. And I was really happy to be able to be in a position working for myself where my husband and I could provide that home base where people weren't going back to a hotel room, but they were coming back to a familiar place that was filled with family. And I was able to adjust my expectations of my business and say, okay, these are the minimum things I'm going to do in my business right now, and I'm just going to be okay with it because it's more important for me to be with my family. And I did, and because I adjusted those expectations, I was also able to let the board I was a member of know that I wasn't going to be present until this situation had some resolution, until I kind of had a better idea about what was happening. And because I was able to adjust that expectation of them on me, they weren't annoyed with me because, oh, well, Evie normally does that, and why hasn't she done that yet? And they were able to handle those things on their own, and I was able to be fully present with my family. I think one of the difficulties here is, so this situation lasted for about 2 weeks before they figured out what was going on, and my father-in-law was able to start getting better and go home. I think one of the difficulties can be when it seems to happen again and again and again. You know, like you have something crazy happen and you readjust your expectations, you rebalance your work and your personal life, and you know, you get through that and you readjust your balance so it's a little more equal, and then it happens again. And then you're feeling like you're not making the progress that you want to make. And I want to share that that's a season. If it's something chronic that is happening over and over and over again, then there might be some other adjustments you want to make. But work-life balance is what you decide it is. It's what you define it as. And my work-life balance is not going to be your work-life balance. And your work-life balance isn't going to be your business buddies, you know, work-life balance. It's all going to be different based on what's going on in your business and what's going on in your life. And you adjust as necessary. One of the coaches that I'm familiar with, I haven't worked with her, but somebody that I'm familiar with, she had a back surgery last year, and she basically was out of commission for like a month. And because she was in severe pain, she had this back surgery, there was a lot of recuperation that had to happen, and she didn't make any excuses about it. She's like, you know what, this sucks, but this is my life right now, and I'm going to focus on getting myself better, and then I will focus on everything else. Then I'll focus on my business again. But for right now, my focus is on getting myself better. So know what that is for you. So, okay, I talked a lot. I didn't expect to talk that much. So let me know your thoughts about what I've shared. Let me know your experiences. Share them in the video below. If it's a little more personal, I invite you to head over to Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs and share it there, because I really would love to know what your thoughts are with it, with work-life balance, and how it works for you, and any frustrations that you have around it. What's worked for you in the past? What hasn't worked for you? I'd love for you to share some of those things, either in the video below, or like I said, if it's something pretty personal, share it over in the Facebook group, or just reach out to me if it's something super personal that you want to share, but you don't want anyone else to see. That's fine. You can reach out to me personally and share that with me. And that's whether you're watching this video today or you're watching it, 2 years from now. Either way, just if it's 2 years from when the video was posted, just reference this video so I know where it's coming from. So that was this week's Facebook Live with Evie on work-life balance. It's all about adjusting those expectations, about what you expect from your personal life and what you expect from your work life. It's about knowing what that balance is and working with it and being realistic. Because sometimes the most frustrating things are when we readjust our expectations, but they're not realistic expectations, and then we're at square one. And we talked about accountability buddies last week. If you don't have somebody that you can share when things are falling apart with, whether that's a really good business friend or an accountability buddy, find somebody. Find somebody that can support you, and somebody who can also, again, call you on your crap. There's nothing more valuable than having a good friend, and especially somebody who's also an entrepreneur, who can know when you're going through a hard time, and at a certain point can say, when are you going to change the story? When are you going to adjust those expectations? That can tell you, hey, you're expecting way too much from yourself, or can say, hey, you're playing small. You are not you're not expecting enough of yourself. You can do so much more right now. So go watch the Accountability Buddy one next if you haven't already seen it, and think about who would you like for your accountability buddy. And there's some ideas there about what to think about and where to look for an accountability buddy. So another coach that I follow, says, get yourself a business bestie. And I couldn't agree more. Get yourself a business bestie. I'm 3 minutes later and she's still talking, right? So my name's Evie Burke. My company is One Insight Closer. And I help entrepreneurs take productivity to the next level. And I hope that through these Facebook Lives that you really get that I'm not completely about get more done, get more done, get more done, but there's a lot of heart in there, and there's a lot of love for all of you in that productivity. So head over to the Facebook group, Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs. Share what's going on for you in the comments below, and I will be here again next week with a new topic at 1 o'clock Central Time. So until then, much love.